another video. Um, today, um, today I'm not liking this price action. I'll get into why. Um, so basically, over the past couple of days, past week, I guess, we've been like bullish on this end until about the 15th, which was when was that? That was Friday. Okay. Well, that was for ES. Nasdaq, I think that Nasdaq is really bearish, so we have a pretty big divergence here. Nasdaq is just looking extremely bearish today. ES is looking somewhat reasonable. So if anything is to be taken a trade on, it's definitely ES. Although I would be concerned considering the amount of bearishness that we have on Nasdaq, which will bleed into a ES during the market. So my main thesis on why we're bearish is, first of all, we have continuations off of every single point of volume on the selling side. We come into an area of volume like here, and price just dumps heavily on it. So we know that every single resistance has played out pretty much perfectly, and the aggressive buying is mainly here. So we are not bearish on the high time frame as of right now because we have not found and rejected an area of accumulation like here. This was our area of accumulation before we made the big move to the upside on the higher highs. Right here we had accumulation here, and we came down, had accumulation here, and we had some more right here. So price coming in and responding to that makes perfect sense. Still responding to it. So this market open is going to be pretty much telling us what the thesis is for our week of price action. If market today comes in and instantly dips below here and rejects this area and maybe catches itself here, then I'm likely going to be looking at maybe like one short this week that I'm going to take if market doesn't start amping up its bullishness. Yeah, I'll show you the points of area that I'm concerned about today. Basically, we have this area. It's just the average of volume for this consolidation right here. So we know that it's likely to have sellers. This area, we're seeing lower highs. So these highs of volume is getting played out. I mean, we can probably see this, right? Like perfect test, rejection, test, rejection. Test, rejection, test, rejection. Like, that's how we know, like, pre-market is telling us that we're going to be bearish. So, we have to be very careful about that. ES, on the other hand, has been pretty bullish, to be fair, considering the amount of downside effect that Nasdaq has had. We came in, tested this area, we passed straight through here, but we consolidated here, so it's likely this was accumulation into manipulation up here, moving price higher after this accumulation right here. Price came in, tested this area, tested it again, tested it again. So this bottom range is where, you know, the aggressive buyers lie in this market. So for the most part, it's definitely possible that Nasdaq and ES are going to be bullish today, in terms of, you know, not falling below the opening price. Because I think down here is like, I don't think I would enter like up here unless we see like extreme bullish structure. Overall, like, if we're gonna have aggressive buyers, it's gonna be right here. Although, right, like the first couple minutes of the market, we're not in a crazy area of volume until about here, so we could drop down here. It's not that not that big of a move, to be fair. I would expect market to open and just be bearish today on Nasdaq. Um, we have so much resistance, and I'm not expecting this week to be anywhere near bullish. Um, but also, like, if we reject this area, we're probably starting some kind of a trend on the downside for maybe a little bit. So I would, like, the best short that I could take today is from here to here, right? Not really like too good of a setup, to be fair. Not one that I would take. So let's just see. Like, if anything, I'm taking a trade on ES today because it's just got the least amount of resistance in terms of, and the best case of upside because we have low volume here. Price could basically just come in, but I don't have any like areas that I need to look out for a break, and then you know, um, you know, like breaking a resistance, and that's how we know that the bullish order flow is bullish, or the order flow is bullish. Right now, market's opening bullish. Expecting, these resistances to pretty much just play out. Also, the most likely scenario for today is just consolidation in um, this point of control right here. Like, I mean, considering the fact that we have resistance here and here, like, I would just expect market to consolidate, maybe test this a couple times, and basically just chop within this area. But this is a good sign right here. The accumulation here, accumulation here. Although we did reject that area, so maybe we could see a rejection here into lower lows. But again, I'm not really expecting anything. Like, if I was to enter, like, the only setup I would have considered would be entering here for Nasdaq because of just the bullish order flow. Like, considering this area is the previous point of accumulation after this move up. So this is the strongest point of aggressive buying that we can pinpoint right now. ES, on the other hand, has been bullish. Reason being, in my opinion, is because of like inflows. Basically just money spreading out. The liquidity in the market has been heavily in the top range of stocks, and it's usually towards the end of a bull run that we see lower caps, altcoins start to move. So, like, you mainly want to be bullish on Nasdaq for the majority of the bull run, and then towards the end, you could be bullish on the Russell and ES and the Dow Jones. Dow Jones is a little bit different though. The Dow Jones is very dependent on the economy, right? Like, tech stocks usually rule during bull runs. I would say the Dow Jones might be more bullish during kind of like a bear market-ish, because tech stocks are probably less leading in that. Dow Jones industrial stocks might be more bullish. I don't know. I haven't been there, so haven't been in a bear market yet. Like, the fact that this week of resistance, like, this isn't even that strong of resistance, right? Like, we should be accepting this area and consolidating within it right away if we were bullish today. Like, I'm not really seeing anything to take. Like, if there wasn't so much resistance in this area right here, I would love to take a setup because of this low volume right here, considering this is the point of control. Like, I would have expected the market to basically come and accept a new point of control for volume, but apparently it's probably not going to happen today. Like, so far the trend has been bearish. I'm not going to take a trade into a bearish trend unless I get, good confirmation that we are breaking that trend. I would say that, like, confirmation for me would just be maybe for today's session to close at a higher point of control, maybe like here. Like, I don't have a game plan for today in terms of, usually I have my setup ready to go, and the market just has to play out, and like, I usually just see if I want to take that setup or not. But today there is no setup that I have planned. Like, there's almost nothing that, my strategy can account for. Like, the only setup that I can see right now is if market comes all the way up to here and rejects this area and moves higher. Like, maybe then I would probably put my take profit like here. But yeah, I mean, I don't really see anything. Like, that's the only bullish setup that I see. I don't want to take a trade into 1, 2, 3 different resistance zones. Like, I'd be scalping at that point. ES, on the other hand, like, I would take a trade on ES if NASDAQ wasn't so bearish today. Like, I could enter here, right, and then put my take profit here. That would probably be the best setup for today. Like, other than that, I don't really see anything else for ES. Like, honestly, if we break through here, I could consider taking a long. I would have to see whether or not this area is, if the majority of the volume is here. Well, it looks like it's up here, so this is like kind of where the selling begun. Let's see where the volume is on this slope. So it looks pretty bullish, I'm not gonna lie. This isn't a continuation. This is simply probably just a byproduct of NASDAQ selling off. I don't think ES has anything to do with this. Let's see. It looks like, I believe I marked this out. Maybe just here. Huh. That's interesting. Maybe I was on the lower time frame. And then this candle showed us the sellers were present at this price level. And then the sellers continued to sell off in that price level again and again and again. So yeah, I'm expecting like a choppy market today. Not really expecting any kind of momentum trade today. Market's probably just going to chop around in this area, likely find a lower low. If we make a lower low, then the week is kind of made out already. And if we make a higher high like here, then we can be bullish for the week. There's just way too much there's way too much stuff on here that I'm not enjoying. This was our clear resistance, and if we were in a momentous trading session, price would have probably came up, came back down, tested this level, and came back higher. Like, that's the thing about trading is, like, you can have a strategy. Like, if I was trading systemically, I would have entered on this and put my stop here. And I think that, like, if you trade systemically, you're trading wrong. Like, you're gonna be wrong on days where such an, like, you could have such an easy fix, like, such an easy way to just not take that trade. Like, systemic traders will find a like strategy and they will trade it anytime it shows up. That's not all systemic traders. Some systemic traders use some level of discretion. I mostly use discretion for my trading because I think that's probably the best way for me, at least. It's like probably going to have the highest skill gap and the highest profitability in the long term if I use a good amount of discretion for my trades, because, like, overall, pointing out this trend right here and these levels and all that, like, if you're taking bullish trades into these, like, areas, like, you're likely to just fail in the long term, because, like, it's so easy to just point this stuff out and then just not take the trade for the day. I'm not switching my bias. I'm not switching up anything. I'm just not taking a trade. Right? I'm still bullish. Not like I'm not bullish or bearish, but I'm leaning towards like bullish ish. Not really like expecting, like it would be a shock to me if price came down and rejected this area and came to here. That would be the start of like a bearish week, which would make sense though, because August is usually just one of those months that can close somewhat bearishly, right? Like, we could end this month like down here. It's definitely possible. And the start of that trend would be, you know, coming down to here and rejecting this area of volume right here. Because think about it, we make this higher high. If market is still bullish and wants to continue, it's going to have to come down to the nearest accumulation area and instantly reject that to the upside, right? That's how a bullish market works. Like, obviously, we have the volatility and the volume and the liquidity to do so, yet we're not doing it. Like, the one flaw that I can think of is, like, the one thing that people might say to that argument is, you know, like, price comes down and can consolidate for a little bit. It's just a pullback in time. But think about it, like, we have so much volatility, the market is moving, and if we wanted to accept higher prices, we would have done so after touching upon here. Now, it can be volatile and still consolidate, but that's more so for fundamental traders, like, or not fundamental traders, that's more so based on fundamental stuff, like the PPI coming out last week and being bearish, super bearish. Like, that's probably the only reason why this is happening. If like, you know what I mean. We rejected this area. So, like, that and a short here is like, after passing through here, exhausting all these buyers, it's likely that we're gonna go lower. That's the only setup that I see. A short and then like a really iffy long position on ES, NASDAQ is just an, like, the thing about trading is that you gotta find out which index is more bullish or bearish. That's why I don't really understand people who only trade one index. Like, people who only trade ES or people that only trade NASDAQ. You're missing out. Like, obviously it's simpler and you don't have, like, learning two indexes is harder than, learning one. And you can get really good at trading just one index, but you're missing out on opportunities. Like, obviously there's a higher skill gap. Obviously it's going to take more time to learn both, and you might even make some mistakes trying to trade both, but in the long term, getting better at trading both is going to be more beneficial because, like, every single day you can point out which index is more bullish and which index is more bearish. Like, it's super simple if you've just been reading price action for a couple months and you know what you're doing. It's pretty easy to tell. It's like, it all depends on just, the volume, what's happening with the volume, and just pretty much candlesticks. Like, are we making higher highs? Are we making lower lows? NASDAQ is making lower low. ES is making a higher low here. Obviously, we are going to be more bullish on the index that made the higher low, right? Most of the time. Like, those are just the little advantages that you need to take advantage of when you're trading. Trading is such a volatile game. Like, you don't have, you have so many advantages that you can take when you're trading, but there's so many little ones. Like, that's why it takes so long to learn how to fully trade, because there's so many little things that you need to calculate in your mind to make the best possible setup and trade, right? Like, it's all about being a human calculator. You want to be able to process every single little bit of information and compare it to your experience in the market, and then take a trade based on that information. That's what a discretionary trader does. That's why, it's easier to be a systemic trader who has, like, a setup that they can just take once it arrives and discard any context given, right? Like, your system isn't going to work in every single market condition. Some systems work better in momentous trading sessions and trading eras, and other setups and systems trade better when we're chopping, like within this month and this month and this month, right? Just chop. Like, choppy markets sometimes have better systems. There are better systems for each market condition. And if you're good at pointing out which market conditions we're in and figuring out which system works better, then by all means go ahead and do so. But, just a little bit of discretion, which I'm sure that most systemic traders use. They probably use some level of discretion for their trades. I'm not saying that they don't. And I'm not going against any of that, because obviously there are algorithms that are going to be more profitable than I ever will be, because they're built by, the top level of technology. But, as a human, you can only do so much, and you can only process so much information. But in the long term, right? Thinking about this in the long term, you only have so much information that you can take advantage of. But if you get better at processing that information, and you just attempt to process it every day, you're going to eventually get better and better and better at processing, that information. I don't even know what I'm rambling on about. Like, this trading session is pretty much just doing nothing. Straight chop. Like, the best way to have a system and combine it with discretion, if you're, I'm only speaking, I'm gonna speak about something, but it's only for people who trade with momentum based strategies. You need to pick and choose the days that you trade extremely carefully, because it's in the long term it's going to affect your profitability, right? Your system, if your system only works on days that have momentum, you can have a huge profitability rate and a huge success rate with your trades if you just pick and choose your days very carefully, right? Like, if I trade my strategy breakout, like a break on a resistance into momentum for, if I trade that every single day, it might be profitable, like, but it's definitely not going to be as profitable if I just skip the choppy days and the days that don't have the momentum. Because if you're trading a strategy that only revolves about certain market conditions, and you just only trade the days that have those market conditions, you're gonna have a profitable strategy. But if you're trading like a strategy like range trader, like a range setup, like traders who trade within a range, like these days where it's just chopping, like if you do better in choppy market conditions, where basically just go up and down in the same areas, like here and here and here. This is a momentum day though. If you do that and you only trade those kind of days and you get better at spotting those kind of days, then you're going to be a lot more profitable than if you just trade every single day. That's why a lot of people say don't trade every day. Pick your days of trading very carefully. Some people trade 2 times a week. Like, they only get 2 setups that they can trade with a week, but their profitability rate is extremely high. You can't find a perfect setup every day. You might think, oh, price is going to move today. If I'm good enough, I'll just find a setup that's going to work with the price that's moving today. But that's not true, because you cannot physically become good enough at trading to know exactly what is going to happen at every given moment. Unless you're like the number 1 scalper on the planet. It's impossible to find out what's going to happen at every given second. You're going to have a huge level of variance when you're trading. Every single day is going to bring different price action. Every single day is going to have different levels of volatility, different levels of volume, everything, right? Market is doing what I thought it would, just chopping. See, like, these are the days that I'm not trading. I'm not trading choppy days. And if I just get good enough at trading, and spotting these days and just not trading during those days, like, my profitability rate instantly goes higher. Not because my trades are better, because I'm, getting better setups, or maybe, better setups, but it's not because I'm getting better at trading. It's because I'm getting better at spotting days to not trade. I'm getting better at not trading, which makes my profitability higher. And if you are trading on days where you're uncertain about market conditions, you need to size down. Like, if I was to take any trade today, I would probably only put 1 contract. which is what I have been doing. I did one contract on this day, one contract on this day. But if you think about it, the only day in which I should have sized up was this day, but that was the first day of the funded account, and I didn't know how to set up my buy. I didn't know where my stop loss and take profit would have been, right? That's the only reason why I only put one size on. If I knew what I was doing with this funded account, and I actually knew how to put my stop loss and take profit on, instead of, now I know that once I press buy, I can just instantly adjust it. But if I knew that, I would have sized up on this day, because this day was prime and ready for my setup, right? It's just a perfect break and momentum day, you know? Some days, when I first saw this price action here, I was like, alright, I think we might be choppy today, but I'm still open-minded, right? If market breaks above here and breaks above here, I'm gonna enter. And that's what I did, and I had a good trade. My god, bro, I need to poop again. I don't even know how that's possible. I just pooped. Alright, I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. Yeah, I mean, if like anything, I'm taking a trade on ES. Bitcoin actually has been dumping. It rejected this area, which really does suck because now we know that the market is bearish right now for Bitcoin. If we look at the liquidation map, ooh, this is really good. The long positions are now, the long liquidation leverage is now higher than the short liquidation leverage, which usually indicates that, you know, the majority of retail, maybe not retail, but the majority of participants in the market are net short right now, which usually means that there's possibility for a squeeze, although I don't think that's going to happen. I think on Ethereum it's definitely possible, but Ethereum could squeeze. Ethereum is so bullish right now. I wonder if I can't see it, but honestly I think that might be it for today's video. It's like a super short video, but like obviously if a setup occurs today, I will be probably taking it, like only if NAS or ES closes above, you know, up here, I'll probably enter, just because of the void of liquidity that we have within this area. Passing through here would also indicate that these buyers are now holding the ground. But I mean, we're bearish on NASDAQ, like not bearish, but you know, like technically we are bearish on NASDAQ, and these buyers right here protecting this area are the only thing keeping us from not going down more. So it's just a question of, will these buyers be able to hold this area? And if they are, then we're probably chopping. At most, we can probably come up maybe into this region. If we return back to here, that would be great for tomorrow's session. But overall, I think these buyers aren't going to be able to take us to higher prices, and the sellers probably won't allow us to go to higher prices, so we're probably just going to chop because these buyers don't look like they're going to be giving up anytime soon. So unless we break past here, then we're going to be fully bearish, and unless, you know, we break past here, we're going to be staying neutral and just expecting chop. So that's it for today's video. I might post a video right after this, going over my volume-based setups, but honestly I feel like I do give up most of my tips and tricks already in these live trading session reviews. So I mean, there's not much more information that I can give. I'm still a noob when it comes to trading, but I do think that my setup is profitable, and I think that anybody can trade my setup as long as they have some market experience and experience with volume. But yeah, that's about it. I'm just gonna end it. No trading today because there was no setup for me today. You know, that's about it. You know, there's not much else to say. I didn't get a setup today, so I didn't trade. You guys should do the same. If you don't have a setup, don't trade out of fear for making a profit for the day. You know. Ooh, McDonald's. They just gave me a notification. They know what I want. Alright, that's it for today. I'll see you guys either later today or tomorrow for tomorrow's trading session.